going, everybody? I'm here to bring you another speculation / theory video that we got going on for the whole Pokemon Legend Z. And with this one, I think is a little bit more interesting because we know, or at least I would say, a lot of the older crowd for Pokemon knows that we were supposed to get a Pokemon Z, right? And if you follow all iterations of Pokemon, we usually get kind of like a definitive version after the two versions that come out. So you got Pokemon Red and Blue, and then in Japan you had Pokemon Green. You had Pokemon Red and Green, and then Blue. And then in the Americas you had Red and Blue, and got Pokemon Yellow. And then we had Ruby and Sapphire, that got Emerald. Gold and Silver, they got Crystal. Diamond and Pearl got Platinum. And this trend continued for a good minute up until we got to Black and White, where it went to Black and White too. So for a minute, a lot of people were like, well, are we gonna continue the trend from that point on? And we had Pokemon X and Y, and everybody was very sure that we were gonna get Z, right? Because X, Y, Z, following the alphabet. And then that didn't happen. They literally said, we're gonna go to Sun and Moon. And so what? Wait a minute. What do you mean? We're just gonna fucking skip Z. And there was a lot of plot points missed in X and Y. There was a lot of places, locales, that were inaccessible in X and Y. And a lot of people thought, well, this will get, investigated and delved into a little bit more deeper in a future game. But that didn't end up happening. We ended up getting Sun and Moon because of the 20th anniversary. And it kind of threw a lot of people off because we did get Omega Ruby and Alpha Sapphire afterwards. We got a few more Megas integrated, and you even had the little bit of tie-in with AZ having visited Hoenn, Sootopolis City specifically. So there was a lot of theories and belief that we would get a Pokemon Z in that same generation, just for us to just blow right past it. All of a sudden, Sun and Moon has elements left over from that point on, where we get Zygarde's complete form. I'll show that off there, and people really coming together being like, well, did they just really blow off Pokemon Z? Everybody kind of doing their investigations and finding out that basically whatever they had scrapped from Pokemon Z, they put into Pokemon Sun and Moon, and that was that. A lot of fans kind of came to terms with like, well, I guess X and Y will never really get the love it deserved. But Game Freak throwing a fucking left field out of nowhere announced Pokemon Legend Z, and a little bit of speculation that I want to throw in there of what Pokemon we could get, Megas or possible regional forms. I'll put them up on the list here, but things that I definitely see now in the foreseeable future, because they announced this, are, for one, regionals of Pokemon that we haven't seen before that will now count as ancestral Pokemon for other ones, right? Or alternate forms, I should say. We had alternate forms of starters for the Hisui region. A lot of speculation has kind of culminated into who we should have, who fits the theme for Kalos. And since it's a French themed nation, the first pick, easy to go by. Hopefully we get a regional for this one, but Empoleon, literally based off of Napoleon Bonaparte. So I'm pretty sure, hopefully it is true. If it's not, Nintendo, you Game Freak, I don't know what the fuck you're smoking, but a lot of people really hope and believe that Empoleon will be the one that gets a regional form or Mega as well, which would be really dope. The other Pokemon that people have a high probability for fitting in with the whole Kalos royalty, beauty, aesthetic, and all that is Snivy. It's based off of Western culture, royalty, and other stuff like that. Kings, queens, and superior literally means, superior. So that the way he looks also fits in with the fleur de, what is it? Fucking, it's that flower symbol that the French use quite a bit. That also fits in heavily with the French aesthetic. And lastly, a lot of people have pointed out this was a little bit more modern, but the fire type that we would get as a regional that could fit in, is Cinderace, a regional form of this one, which would be the very first regional form of a Galar starter. I think would fit in really well. Could be a good fit. Make him a fire ground type or something like that, right? And I'd say you have a shoo-in for a good theming of France, right? You could make him look a little bit more elder, I guess, as far as the rabbits go. But everything is kind of fitting into place. People are coming up with good theories, possibilities that we could have with the fact that we already know we're going to have Mega's return. I mean, you've been seeing the footage here play in the background. You've seen that they announced the fucking Mega Evolutions at the end of the trailer. So we know that that's going to be another thing. And now that we have one game to base off of, Legends Arceus, we can expect them to either add new forms and or new Pokemon. So the other thing I want to go into was a bit of possibilities that we got in the forefront hitting us. Two things, or yeah, I will say 2 to 3 things I do think will pop up in this generation, or I should say games, are, for one, the inevitability of Mega Flygon. This Pokemon was told to be coming in the pipeline by Ken Sugimori himself, but because he had artist block, he just couldn't come up with a good enough design for himself personally to allow it to be the Mega Flygon that we deserved, right? For at least Omega Ruby and Alpha Sapphire. And now that we have the possibility of revisiting that theme, people have pointed out, hey, maybe this is what Mega Flygon could look like, right? Let's get our first fucking Dragonfly Pokemon. Let it actually be a bug dragon type Pokemon. That'd be dope. All right. Who knows if they'll do it, but I know a lot of fans are definitely hoping that this is a possibility in the woodworks. The other possibility that Mega is gonna come would be Mega Charizard Z. I'll put up another image of what I think this could look like. This one was from Pokemon Amino, but you definitely have a lot of fans speculating on these forms and megas that we could have had. Definitely good ideas all around. I think this one fits, kind of mixes the whole thing of the X and Y Mega, where he's black colored. It's got the green tinge, so you can tell he's from Z, but also the added aesthetics that they've put on him. And lastly, the other Pokemon I wanted to talk about that I think could get a little bit more lore built on them. For one, maybe we can get a little bit more lore built upon the X and Y legendaries of the region. So when we kind of first start off in X and Y, they really don't mention Xerneas or Yveltal literally until like the last half. No, not even last half, the last portion of the game where you interact with them. And as we've seen with Palkia, Dialga, and Groudon and Kyogre, whenever they've revisited the regions that they were in, we tend to get a form change, right? I'll put in here what I think the form changes could be. Granted, these are already fan made based off Hoops and Hip Hop, which is a good guy to go off of when it comes to speculation. He's got to go, you know, a lot of good fan art, Pokémons and stuff like that. But when it comes to how real this could look, I feel I would like to say he probably hits it a little bit more on the nail of what Game Freak is willing to change about a Pokemon to make it a form change, and how crazy they'll really do it, right? But I think the ones that he made for Xerneas and Yveltal, it's not too over the top, it's not too crazy, but it also is believable enough that you could see it happening, right? Finally, the last Pokemon that I want to bring into the mix of things we could possibly learn a little bit more about in this region are Volcanion, pop him up there on the screen for a little bit, and Hoopa. These two Pokemon are mythical Pokemon of this region, as well as Diancie, but she already has a Mega. Maybe we'll get something on her, who knows, but I feel like the Pokemon that have a little bit more potential are Volcanion, which has ties to Magearna. Also, that the fact that it was an ancient king that made Magearna, but somehow ties into Volcanion, right? That's something they can possibly delve into. And Hoopa, which is known to be a mischievous Pokemon and likes to, you know, take things for themselves. Could this be something that we'd be able to finally learn a little bit more about in the ancient world? Or I guess it's not really ancient because Hisui was only a few hundred years back. This would probably be about similar. But that would be more information that we'd have on these Pokemon that we don't have right now. And fans are always wanting to learn more about these mythical Pokemon, legendary Pokemon, right? And they've only ever done it a handful of times. Deoxys, Celebi, Mew, right? And those are fan favorites. I would say Hoopa is in line with being one of Kalos's top tier Pokemon, especially Unbound form. But people would only love it more, I would say, or they would come to love it a lot more if they can learn a little bit more information about it. Maybe there's a good story behind why and how it behaves the way it does, right? That's pretty much all the speculation I got going on, though. Let me know what you guys think down below. Yeah, I think Pokemon Legends ZA is very fantastic to come across, and if we are able to learn a little bit more about Kalos and they fill in a little bit more of the blanks from the Pokemon Legends, or sorry, Pokemon Z that we should have gotten, then this game will fulfill everything that fans were wanting for a definitive edition, right? Other than that, I want to know what y'all think below, and have a good morning, good night, and good evening. And that, Shinigami signing out. Bye.